Buried in the snow, a dying alien mother clutched her newborn twins, condemned to death by her own people. But when a human truck driver found them on a frozen highway, he had 10 seconds to choose. Keep driving, or change the fate of two worlds forever. Navara Prime wasn't a planet people visited for scenery. It was a razor-cold world where the sky always looked bruised and the wind could strip metal clean if it blew long enough. On nights like this, when the air turned white and the horizon disappeared, nothing survived outside. Not humans. Not Virali. Not anyone. Yet through that merciless darkness stumbled Avelin. Her boots sank deep into the snow, every step a harder battle than the last. She wasn't equipped with armor or thermal suits, only a ceremonial gown now crusted with frost. Her fingers trembled violently as she clutched two small bundles against her chest, newborns, barely hours old. Their soft whimpers were almost lost beneath the shrieking wind, but every sound was a reminder of why she had to keep moving. Her people believed the birth of twins signaled cosmic rebellion. Two children born under the same star steal destiny from one another. That was the law, written centuries ago by rulers more afraid of change than dying. Avelin had always served those rulers, believed in them, followed every oath required of a high scribe. Until today, when she watched the council order her babies taken, marked as cursed, and left in the storm to die. Tradition demanded her compliance. Motherhood demanded her defiance. So she ran, her vision blurred, her feet numb, legs failing. She didn't know if she was heading toward shelter or deeper into the world's icy jaws. Only that stopping meant 3 graves no one would ever mark. Far ahead, engine lights cut through the storm. She couldn't tell if it was rescue or death. Soldiers might return to finish the sentence. Or maybe the universe was finally showing mercy. With her last strength, she stumbled forward, nearly collapsing. Inside the transport hauler, Darren Holt scratched the back of his neck and groaned at his control panel. He'd driven cargo runs on Navara Prime for 5 years and had seen everything from ice beasts to territorial miners. But the blinking alert on his radar, unidentified warm mass, was new. Probably another frozen animal. Or a malfunction. Or, knowing his luck, something that required paperwork. Still, he slowed. Something about tonight felt wrong. He angled the transport's lights, and what the beam revealed made him stop breathing for a heartbeat. A blue-skinned woman, barely conscious, shielding 2 tiny infants with her own body. For a second, Darren just stared. He'd come here expecting a routine delivery. Instead, he'd driven into someone else's last battle for life. Everything was about to change. Darren didn't have time to think. He scooped the alien mother and her babies into the transport and cranked the heat to max. The woman's eyelids fluttered, but she didn't speak. Not yet. Her body trembled from cold and exhaustion. But even unconscious, she never loosened her hold on the infants. That protective instinct alone told him everything. Outside, the storm intensified. The windshield rattled under the hammering wind. Darren forced the transport forward, battling zero visibility and terrain that looked like the inside of a snow globe spun by an angry child. "Great," he muttered. "I'm not just late for delivery. Now I'm smuggling a woman with 2 newborns from a civilization that hates both. That's gonna look great on the next customs inspection." The onboard AI pinged a proximity warning. Approaching signatures. Not human. Not friendly. Darren glanced at the console. Virali patrol signals. He swallowed hard. He wasn't just helping strangers. He had stepped into a cultural execution in progress. The transport couldn't outrun them in the open. They needed shelter. He slammed the controls and veered off the registered route, heading toward a mountainous ridge notorious for old mining shafts. Normally he avoided them. The tunnels collapsed easily and no one maintained them after the mining companies abandoned the planet. But tonight, collapsing walls sounded better than getting shot out of the sky. The entrance appeared at the last second, half buried under drifts of ice. Darren powered into it, metal scraping stone, and the transport finally came to a grinding halt inside a cavern that swallowed the storm's sound in one gulp. Silence settled like relief. He checked the woman again. Alive. Barely. The babies, though tiny and fragile, had surprising strength in their cries. Thin but determined, as if protesting the universe itself. The woman's eyes opened, glassy but aware. "Why?" she whispered, voice brittle but intelligent. "Because leaving you out there wasn't an option," Darren answered, as if it were the simplest math problem in the world. A slight, disbelieving smile touched her lips. She struggled to speak again. "My name, Aveline." He handed her warm water and adjusted thermal blankets around the infants. Now that he saw them up close, he noticed something strange. Faint golden lines beneath their skin, pulsing slowly like living circuitry. Before Darren could process it, a low rumble shook the cavern's ceiling. Dust fell. Something deeper in the tunnel system wasn't stable. And worse, those patrol signatures hadn't disappeared. They were coming closer. The cavern trembled again, this time strong enough to make the transport creak. Darren wasn't an engineer, but even he knew when a roof wanted to fall on his head. Aveline tried to sit up, holding the babies close. She was still weak, but her eyes had regained a sharpness that made Darren realize something. She wasn't just a victim. She was someone who had lived with danger for a long time. "We can't stay here," she said, voice steadier. "Not with the hunters close." Darren grunted and grabbed his emergency kit. "You, the kids, and me, time to go spelunking. I really need to start charging extra for hazardous missions." He helped her out of the transport and into a narrow tunnel. The air shifted immediately, warmer than expected, carrying a faint mineral scent. The floor sloped downward, leading deeper into the ancient underground network. Aveline paused at a wall carved with strange symbols. She pressed her palm to one of the markings, and to Darren's shock, the symbols lit up with soft blue light, revealing a hidden path that opened silently. "I thought you were just a scribe," he whispered. "I was," she replied, stepping forward. "Scribes in my caste learn histories others are forbidden to know." Forbidden. That word hung in Darren's mind like a billboard. As they continued deeper, the tunnel widened into an incredible chamber. Crystalline walls glowed with their own pale light, illuminating murals of Virali figures holding what looked like halos of energy around their heads. Darren walked closer, brushing a hand across the carvings. "These your ancestors?" Aveline nodded. "Before the Great Division. Before knowledge became property of the Council." Darren whistled. "Yeah, humans did that a few times too. Never ends well." She gave him a brief, weary smile. On a raised dais in the center of the chamber sat an ancient console, dormant under layers of dust. The twins stirred, their golden markings pulsing faintly. Aveline knelt to soothe them, and the room reacted. Light rippled across the walls, awakening systems untouched for centuries. Holographic script and images spiraled into the air, star maps, energy grids, and records of a society that once prized unity over fear. Darren stood frozen, watching history rewrite itself around him. Then his scanner beeped sharply, multiple life signs approaching fast. Hunters. Aveline's face tightened. This place was never meant to be rediscovered. "And yet," Darren said, gripping his sidearm, "here we are." The past wasn't just knocking. It was about to collide with the present. Darren didn't need the scanner to confirm danger. The distant echo of boots on stone was enough. The hunters were close, moving with rigid military discipline. Aveline shifted her hold on the twins, drawing a slow breath to steady herself. She wasn't helpless anymore. She was standing in the birthplace of the truth her people had been denied. A narrow secondary tunnel led upward. Darren motioned for her to move, covering the rear with his blaster. The chamber's pale blue lighting reflected off his visor, catching the tired determination in his eyes. He wasn't trained for this kind of conflict. He was a truck driver, not a soldier, but sometimes life didn't wait for qualifications. They reached a connecting passage, wider, smoother, and clearly shaped with purpose. As they stepped inside, they were met with a figure blocking the path ahead. Tall, armored, carrying a glaive pulsing with ice-blue energy. The High Warden, Kaler. He looked at Aveline, the twins, then Darren. The storm of judgment in his eyes didn't need translation. "You defy law, tradition, and the judgment of the Council," Kaler said, voice unwavering. Return the children, and your death will be clean. Darren lifted his blaster. Yeah, she's not doing that, and you're not touching those babies. Feel free to write that into your council minutes. Kaler didn't even blink. Your interference proves why humans must never be permitted influence here. Darren laughed softly. Hate to break it to you, but I influence a lot. Mostly bad coffee and long shipping delays. Aveline stepped forward. Kaler, you trained me. You taught me that history guides the future. The walls themselves are proving the council lied. For a moment, Kaler's gaze flickered, uncertainty slipping through the armor. But the moment was short-lived. History is written by those who preserve order, not by those who break it. He lunged. Darren barely dodged. The blade slammed into the stone where his head had been, sparks scattering. He fired twice, not to kill but to force distance. Kaler moved like a dancer forged in combat, blocking the shots with his armored gauntlet. Aveline called out, pointing toward a set of ancient pressure runes along the wall. Darren understood instantly. He fired, shattering the runes. The wall mechanisms groaned, and part of the ceiling dropped between them and Kaler, sealing him away for the moment. Dust rained down. The tunnel trembled again. That won't stop him long, Aveline said, breath uneven. No, Darren replied, checking the twins. But hopefully it bought us a minute to choose the kind of fight worth fighting. Above them, the mountain shivered, like the world itself had just realized its secrets were leaking. The mountain didn't stop shaking. Dust sifted from the ceiling with every tremor, warning them that the ancient tunnels had decided they'd seen enough history for one night. Darren steadied Aveline with one hand, guiding her toward a sloping passage that spiraled upward. The twins were quiet, not peacefully, but intently, their golden markings pulsing like they were aware of the danger surrounding them. Aveline watched them with a mixture of awe and fear. They're reacting to the knowledge in these walls, she murmured. Virali ancestors believed the young could sense truth before they learned language. Darren shook his head. Human babies mostly sense when you haven't slept in 3 days. I think yours came pre-installed with upgrades. She almost smiled, but another tremor interrupted the moment. A rumbling crash echoed behind them. The temporary barrier Darren had created wouldn't hold Kaler forever. They hurried upward, the passageway narrowing before opening into a cavern mouth. Freezing night air blasted in, but the sight ahead was worth the sting. The valley below glowed with lights, human settlement lights, outpost bastion, civilization, safety, maybe even answers. Darren took one step onto the snow before a shadow detached itself from the rocks above. Kaler landed in a crouch, armor cracked from the collapse but eyes burning with conviction. His weapon hummed back to life. You cannot rewrite the laws of a world with stolen knowledge, he said, voice low and raw. Order must stand. Aveline stood firm, exhaustion forgotten. Order without truth is fear dressed in ceremony. Kaler's jaw tightened. He surged forward, but something stopped him. An invisible pulse that rippled through the air. The twins' markings blazed gold. The energy wave struck Kaler head-on. Not attacking him, but overwhelming him with memories the tomb had shown them. The first councils suppressing historical records. Scholars silenced when they spoke of unity. Prophecies edited into warnings instead of calls for progress. Kaler staggered, dropping to one knee. Not defeated physically, but cracked open internally. Darren didn't gloat. He simply stood beside Aveline, protective but steady. He could see the war going on behind Kaler's eyes. Finally, the High Warden looked up, not in anger but in realization. All my battles, and the enemy was the truth I refused to face. Human headlights broke through the storm below, vehicles climbing fast to reach them. Reinforcements. Kaler rose slowly. Go. Protect them. The council will not yield quietly. Aveline nodded. Neither will we. Darren adjusted his grip on her shoulder and led her down the slope toward the approaching convoy. The world around them still trembled, but for the first time it wasn't collapsing. It was changing. You said, in the end, one tired truck driver didn't just save a mother and her babies. He exposed a truth powerful enough to shake an entire civilization. Snow still falls on Navarra Prime, but now the world is changing, not through war or conquest, but because one ordinary human refused to look away. And sometimes that is all it takes to rewrite destiny.